Hello everyone, it's Victor speaking. It's good to be here again with you. And today I wanted to make a video for you on part of fortune. And one of the reasons is because most of my clients are looking out for me because they are not really sure what road they should be taking. And part of fortune plays a big part of what type of career you should be taking. As the name suggests, fortune. So part of fortune indicates in the chart not only what would give you, a certain amount of money to have a life standard, but it also talks about joy and happiness. Okay, so basically one of the meaning of part of fortune is what would give you an ease of wealth. Okay, the house and the sign indicates the quality of the fortune. So first of all, have a look. If you go on astro.com and then you enter your birth details and then you just scroll down, on the left hand side actually you can see part of fortune, and then you just need to click on it and then it's gonna generate the placement and the house position of your part of fortune. Okay, you also have to take into account the ruler of the sign of the part of fortune as well, and then once you combine those two, then it can give you a great indication of what type of job you should be doing in order for you to have an ease of wealth. Okay, fair enough. You also have to check the midheaven as well. You would also have to have a look at the 2nd, the 8th, the 11th house, because these are the financial houses. But to be frank, part of fortune itself can really give you a great indication. So today what I'm going to teach you is a part of one of the lectures I have held on the predictive class. This is a 9-hour class on zodiacal releasing, and probably most of you haven't heard about zodiacal releasing, but this is the most accurate timing technique of all time in my opinion. So if you've got a good understanding of part of fortune, maybe later on we can cover bits and pieces on zodiacal releasing as well, and then it can give you a very great understanding when the career peak comes into your life. Okay, so part of fortune, the keywords: pot of gold, well-being, talent, success. So it's going to tell you where your talents are. Interestingly enough, part of fortune, because it's a calculation of sun, moon and the rising sign, in ancient astrology it used to talk about health matters as well. And then once you manage to bring all these into harmony, then you can really gain happiness through balancing up the opposite house as well. So just quickly, I wanted to tell you how to calculate it in case you don't know or you can't figure out how to do that on astro.com. But you have to differentiate whether your chart is a day chart or a night chart. Day chart is when the sun is above the horizon, and night chart is where it's under the horizon. So basically you just get your rising, your ascendant and your descendant, and there is a line, like a line in your chart, and if the sun is above, then you're gonna be a day chart. If it's underneath, then you're gonna be a night chart. So when it's a day chart, basically the part of fortune is where the moon would be if the sun was on the rising sign. So the calculation is you get the degree of your rising sign, and then you take away the degree of the sun, and then you're gonna add the position of the moon to it. So let me give you a very quick example on that, yeah? So if you've got, let's say, rising sign on 10 degrees of Gemini, and you've got moon on 20 degrees of Virgo, and sun on 15 degrees of Aquarius, then you just need to start from, imagine Aries is being 0 degree. So therefore Gemini is going to be between 60 and 89 degree, right? So you just get 60 degree and then you add the 10 degree onto it. So that ascendant, which I said was 10 degree of Gemini, is actually going to be 70 degree. And then you do exactly the same with Virgo as well. So Virgo is going to start on 150. Okay, so the moon was on 20 degree of Virgo, so that's going to be 170 degree. And you exactly do the same with the sun as well. And then you just do the math. When it's a night chart, then imagine that the sun would be, the part of fortune is where the sun would be if moon was on the ascendant. So the calculation is going to be the degree of the rising sign, and then you're going to add the degree of the sun onto it, and then you're going to take away moon from it. So I hope it makes sense how to calculate it. I'm not going to show you because the whole purpose of this mini lecture is that I can give you some idea of what type of work you should be doing. And then if you get confused, then feel free to book a reading with me on astrology.com, because I'm offering a 6 to 8 pages of career peak indications and talent chart, and then we can dive into a lot deeper than today. So first of all, part of fortune is favorable in your chart if it's placed in a money house. So money houses are the 2nd, the 5th, the 8th, and the 11th. So if you want to differentiate them a little bit, then 2nd house is the approach you take to money. So it's like a psychological connection to money. 5th house is more to do with your own businesses, if you want to run one. 8th house is other people's money, and because that's the 2nd house from the 7th, that could be indicating your partner's money as well. And 11th house is the house of salary. And the reason being is, because some of you might not agree with that, but if you think about derived house systems, then 11th house is the 2nd from the 10th. So the 10th house would be the profession, and the 2nd house from the 10th, which is the 11th, would be the salary. Part of fortune is also favorable in Venus ruled signs. So Venus rules 2 signs. One of them is Taurus and Libra. Okay, so if it's not in a money house but placed in Libra or Taurus, that's a very favorable position. Part of fortune in conjunction with Sun, because Sun is the ego, so there would be a little bit of push from you to even achieve more. But also part of fortune is very favorable when it's in conjunction or trine or a sextile. So basically we're talking about the harmonious aspects with Venus or Jupiter. Because Venus is the planet of money, and Jupiter is the planet of wealth and expansion. And in traditional astrology, they are the most benefic planets as well. So benefic means that something comes with ease. And it really depends again whether you are a night chart or a day chart, but Jupiter on a day chart tends to be the most benefic planet, and Venus in a night chart. Also, when part of fortune is in an angular house, it is extremely beneficial for you. Okay, and it is also very good when part of fortune is in a favorable aspect with the ruler of any of your money houses. So let's say if it's in a good aspect with the 8th house ruler, that's most probably talking about the fact that you should be doing some type of service industry job, because it indicates other people's money. So you need to be doing a job where you can charge people, okay, and that money goes directly into your pockets. 5th house would be talking about other businesses. 11th house would be talking about working for a big organization and so forth. But as I said, we would need to have a look at the ruler of those houses as well. Unfortunately, part of fortune has got some poor placement as well, so we do need to mention them. One of them is if it receives an aspect from a malefic planet. So malefic is Saturn and Mars. Or in some cases, that part of fortune might not be aspected whatsoever. That's even actually worse when receiving a negative aspect from one of the malefic planets. And the reason being is because negative aspects usually talk about the fact that you should be working a little bit harder in order for you to manifest whatever you want to achieve. For me, squares and oppositions are the teaching aspect of the chart. Okay, and maybe they make you a little bit more result orientated, and therefore something needs to push you in order for you to try harder to get what you wish for. Or also a poor placement when the ruler of the part of fortune is retrograde, because retrograde is talking about internalization. So you might not want to look into yourself enough and discover what road you should be taking. And usually with retrograde planet, it comes a little bit later on in life when they realize what they really want to achieve. And also in Cadent Houses. So I'm not going to explain to you today what the Cadent really means. But obviously we've got the angular houses. Most probably you've heard of those. So the first, the fourth, the seventh, and the 10th. And the previous ones would be the cadent houses. And cadent is because actually they are a little bit like changing. Okay, they are a little bit slower as well. So the realization might be coming later on, or they tend to change jobs quite often and not sticking to the guns. So let's have a look what part of fortune means in each houses, and then you can correlate those to the sign as well. So when I mention first house, then I might be talking about Aries as well. Today I'm going to go through mainly the houses. It's similar to the signs as well, obviously with a bit of tweak. And let's say when I talk about part of fortune in the 8th house, then you might want to listen to the 8th house interpretation, okay? And then you might want to listen to, you know, to the ruler of the part of fortune as well. So let's say if it's Mars, then you might want to listen to Aries as well, and then trying to combine those two together. Okay, so part of fortune in the 1st house indicates that the success can be achieved through a unique talent. When you've got part of fortune in the 1st house, that is indicating that you were born around new moon. And new moon is always talking about opportunities. Okay, so the opportunities are coming quite often. One of the downfall with having a new moon is that you might not be nurturing. Imagine planting the seed. That seed needs watering to strike out of the earth and then starts growing. So the achievement might not be coming as quick as you want that. Definitely part of fortune here indicates that you've got an individual way of approaching life as well. So therefore the job needs an individual way of approach too. It could be indicating that you might be quite subjective about yourself and the world as well. Definitely you need to worry a lot less what other people think of you, and probably you might not have an issue with it because 1st house is talking about your personal development, right? And the 7th house would be the other people. If you've got quite a prominent 7th house, that could be indicating that you really want to listen to their opinions a lot more, and the success here is listening to your gut feelings and focusing on your personal development rather than trying to, you know, cope with other people's desire and try to satisfy them and so forth. Another very good advice here is don't waste your time competing with others, because then you just give plenty of energy out, and therefore what happens is the focus is going to be on other people and not on yourself. Therefore the success is delayed. In many cases, what I've also seen that people who have got part of fortune in the 1st house might be seen well off by other people, and therefore it creates a bit of jealousy as well. So Having part of fortune here indicates that you might be needed to work somehow with body. Okay, let's say if it's in a Virgo sign, it might indicate that you would be a great dietitian, for instance. If it's on a Aries house cusp, that could be indicating you would be a good personal trainer, or and so forth. Okay, I'm not gonna go through because then we're gonna be sitting here for hours, but you can combine the interpretations and then have a good idea about it. The opposite house from part of fortune usually indicates what type of blockages you have. And having part of fortune in the first house, the opposite house is the seventh, can indicate that the blockages are coming from relationship. Why relationship? Maybe your partner wants you to stay at home with the kids and the partner wants to make the money all the time. Or maybe because of religious reasons. Somehow the partner can block you. Okay, maybe you feel way too underutilized in the relationship, and energetically speaking, you pick up all those vibes, and then you just give up on your dreams. And it sounds a little bit weird, but your approach, the way you approach the world might be too impersonal. And because first house is a very personal house, that's the mask what you wear. Therefore, you always need to be very personal the way you approach things. So I hope this makes sense. When part of fortune is in the second house, I said it's a very favorable one. Definitely the happiness, joy can come through self-esteem and building the way to shine through and through self-expression. Okay, second house is a financial house, so you might be able to do quite well in financial fields. But definitely the greatest joy in life will come when you learn how to value yourself. I've seen in many cases that someone has got a part of fortune in the second house and they are not asking for enough money the service they do, because they are not trusting. They don't trust their their skills, or they've got a little bit of inferiority complex going on. Money will come when money serves your real values. What I mean by that is, if you have got part of fortune in the second house with great aspects from other planets, and let's say you work for a big organization, I don't know, maybe as a secretary, okay? Probably you're not serving your true self of your chart. Therefore, the money might not be coming that good. So that would be extremely important for you to figure out what type of business you would be quite good at. When you've got part of fortune in the second house, you might be a little bit too concerned about financial situation all the time. So basically the psychological approach to money can be a little bit tricky. The reason why we talk about psychological approach is because the part of fortune is calculated by the sun, moon, and the rising sign, right? And moon is all about feelings. Moon is a very psychological planet. Also, moon represents, in a way, karma as well in your chart. So, karma, childhood, so what you are bringing either from previous lifetimes or from your childhood as well. Most probably you feel happy when you attract money, or you've got possessions, belongings around you, and then you are very protective over those things as well. And because this is a Taurus house, therefore it is extremely important not to be too rigid about those possessions and being able to give them away when it's needed. I'll give you an example. One of my very best friends has got part of fortune in the second house, and she collects everything. She's got like 8 wardrobes worth of dresses and shoes and so forth. And then even if they are torn apart, she wouldn't throw them away, because it's gonna be good for something else. And when we were talking about this, and she was struggling financially as well all the time, because she got all these things from charity shops and so forth. So when we talked about this, I said to her, first of all, get rid of all the things you don't need. I'm not saying put them in the bin, because that would be a very sacred thing for her to do. So, I mean, it would be against her kind of mentality. So I said, go to a car boot sales and then sell them there. She did. She bought herself new stuff. And then within a couple of weeks, she started attracting money. The blockages are coming from the 8th house, and therefore very important to be able to let go of attachment to the material world and approaching the world in a more spiritual way. So having said that, as I said, part of fortune can be extremely good in a financial field when placed in the 2nd house. But in a way, you definitely need to get the spiritual element into whatever business you do. Being able to trust others. I've seen it so many times that they can't delegate tasks. They want to do everything on their own because they've got some trust issues. That's another factor to consider, obviously, where the trust issue is coming from. So if you have a look at your 8th house ruler, that might give you a little bit more indication. Having a part of fortune in the 2nd house can really indicate that you've got a fear going on for poverty. Okay, and therefore you might not be taking risks in your life. And what I have seen plenty of times, when part of fortune is here, they don't want to change job, because remember, it's a Taurus ruled house, and Taurus is all about stability. So I'd rather do something bad for a long time which gives me enough security than take a risk and start something new which might not be working out. Another blockage can be that you might have got a little bit of struggle going on to differentiate between your and other people's value. So, because the horoscope has got 4 parts, right? So you've got the angles like that. This part of the chart is more to do with your personal developments. So if you've got planets in the 1st, 2nd and 3rd house, mainly the focus always needs to be on you. When having part of fortune in the 3rd house, that would be indicating that the success can come through communication and being able to connect to other people. Well, this is the house of media, this is the house of communication, marketing and so forth. And it could really indicate that you always need to do some marketing in order for you to get success. Writing, speaking, and so on. Bookkeeping depends on what type of planets we're talking about. What you can be really good at is to process information. You can be extremely good at languages and speaking, and definitely it's recommended to speak more languages. And because it's a communicative house, it is also very important to share wisdom with other people as well. And being able to learn about how other people think. So having part of fortune here could be indicating that you would be a great people manager, for instance, or working in HR, training and development. But part of fortune also in the 11th house can indicate that too. The blockages might be coming from that you are not able to put your ideas into practice. And the reason being is because you can have plenty of idea coming all the time, and you just forget about those, the previous ones. So therefore, one good thing to do is to write them down. And then coming back to those all the time, how you can tweak them, how you can merge them, and then make something big out of it. Another factor to consider is not to try to force your ideas onto other people. Especially if you have got a business partner. Get your own ideas, get the business partner's ideas, try to merge those. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean that the idea is never going to work out anyway in real life. So come up with different solutions. Because business partnership is something like a marriage, right? If the two of you cannot, convince the other, then it just means that the relationship is going to get destroyed in a way. Third house, because the opposite house is the 9, so that could make you extremely opinionated. And definitely one thing to learn here is how to come across with your opinion, and to learn how to speak and when to speak as well. So definitely some tips here, anything to do with marketing, even writing, communication, PR manager, HR, anything to do with people definitely could be a good job. When it's in the 4th house, well, success can come through family and home environment, because this is a nurturing house. So nurturing anything, what do you nurture usually? Some people nurture children, but you can nurture your idea as well. You can nurture plants, animals, projects. Okay, this is the house of giving birth as well. So giving birth to a new idea, for instance. So you would be great, you can be great as a strategist, for instance, or you can be great here as an advisor, especially on an emotional level, because this house is ruled by moon. Okay, so just basically rewiring other people's brain. Okay, while, for instance, part of fortune in the 2nd house, if it was in the sign of Cancer or even Scorpio, then you would be a great financial advisor. Here is more to do with getting people calibrated on an emotional level. You can be extremely good in lands or property business, real estate. And because this is a cardinal house, cardinal means action, but and major actions, and therefore you've got the sense of solidity going on as well. Part of fortune here can actually indicate that you need to be working from home, especially if the ruler of your part of fortune is in the 12th house as well. That could be indicating that your success and money can really come through if you work on your own, in your own time, and then you are not within this time frame that I need to be working from 9 to 5. And especially if it's the 12th house, the ruler of the part of fortune is in the 12th, that could be indicating that you are a lot better working at night rather than daytime. The blockages can be coming from the 10th house, so definitely it indicates that you need to learn how long it takes to create things. And not to get too moody as well. 4th house is ruled by moon, and that's the planet of mood. Okay, so not to get too moody or too emotional over a project. And it can indicate that you can get easily wrapped up at work, and you are not giving enough time for yourself to fulfill your dreams. So having that balance basically between work and your family. Another blockage can be that you are working towards goals rather than enjoying the process. It is extremely important to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but every single step needs to be taken and enjoyed in order for you to get to attract that money what you want. And it's just like you want to build a castle. You can't start with the top because you want to be the princess hanging your hair down, right? So that the prince can climb up. There needs to be a solid foundation going on. And fourth house talks about foundations. Having part of fortune in the fifth house. I like fifth house because this talks about your creativity. And therefore success, joy and happiness can come through self-expression. Using your creative energies. You might be extremely good at drama, music, entertainment, even in a way holiday business as well, especially if there is a connection going again towards the 12th house, then definitely I would say you would be good in tourism. But also part of fortune is very good in the 3rd and the 9th house as well in regards to tourism. And you always have to have a playful approach to life. Fifth house is all about taking risks, being adventurous, doing things wholeheartedly, and placing your passion at the forefront of everything you do. You know, in catering there is this rule that the customer is always right. With the fifth house, actually, your motto can be that whatever I do is the most important thing, and to enjoy that is the most relevant part in that business you do. You can be actually quite good at gambling, children and sport activities as well. Fifth house also rules psychology, especially if it's in a water house cusp. Then again, it can indicate that you would be quite a great psychologist, for instance. Blockages are coming from the 11th house. If there is no recognition or reward, then you might go through a psychological phase. And therefore, you get a little bit devastated and so on. 11th house is talking about friends, organizations. So therefore, the blockages can be coming from the influence they have on you. And therefore, what happens is when you've got a very strong 11th house, that could indicate actually that your ideas get wrapped up in a big organization. And therefore, you can't come forward enough. And what happens is they just steal your ideas and then they get the reward instead of you. Very important to make sure that you choose the right friends. I usually say that friends either make or break you. I remember my boss used to tell me actually when I worked in catering that your managers either make you or break you. You can only be as good as your last result. And if you've got a weak person around you, that person can really break your success. So with the fifth house, I would also say that it's always better to work with a small amount of people rather than plenty. Okay, because it's harder to find the weakest link. When you only work up to maximum 5 people, I would say, when we talk about part of fortune in the fifth house, then it's easier to eliminate the weakest link. And daydreaming can be another blockage. So it's just 11th house is more to do with the daydreaming, and 12th house is more to do with the night dreaming, so the actual dream. Okay, so therefore 5th house is ruled by Leo, and it is extremely important to act, to have action according to the element of the house as well, which is fire. So you can be quite good at organizing sport events, running your own business. Definitely it is important to be your own boss, because this is a very bossy house. Okay, and just think of Leo. A lion is the top of the chain. the animal chain. So he is the king, and therefore this is exactly what you need to pursue in your career as well. Having part of fortune in the sixth house is indicating that the great joy can come through work. When you've got a sense of, in a way, achievement as well, and also know that that you can work hard. You can be quite lucky in health as well. You can actually get joy, happiness if you manage to structure daily activities. Therefore, you can be a very good administrative person. And administrators usually don't get loads of money. But what I've noticed, having part of fortune here, might not even want so much. They just want to have a normal life standard, being able to put bread and butter on the table, and the great sense of joy is coming from the actual process of the work. They could be quite lucky at finding jobs as well, actually. They can be very lucky at interviews. You might only need to go for one interview and then you are done. You found your perfect job. You can have extremely great relationship with your colleagues as well. I've seen it plenty of times that part of fortune in the six, especially if it's in a water sign, they love gel like they love jelly with other people, especially with colleagues. You can be quite good at animals as well. So maybe you might want to consider having your own pet shop. What came to my mind just now that, for instance, part of fortune in the fourth house can be quite good at antique stuff as well. Just sorry, I just wanted to stick that in there. You would be quite good when part of fortune is placed in the sixth in biology, anatomy, anything to do with health industry as well. Because what happens here is that this is the axis of either suffer or serve. So sixth house is all about serving other people. Okay, and that gives you a sense of happiness that you are able to help other people. Also, if it's especially on a earth house cusp, it can make you good in agriculture. And also this is true for the fourth house as well, because that's the homeland. The blockage is definitely coming from the spiritual realm, because that's the 12th house. You might not dare to dream big enough. And that's one of the biggest one here. Enjoy in the process is great, but also the sense of achievement is as well as important. So try to aim for bigger stuff as well in life. Part of fortune in the 7th house. Well, that means that you were born around full moon. So the full moon is great because it gives you a sense of visibility. You can walk in the street without having any lights on, and then you can still see the road in a way. So the full moon usually gives you a sense of visibility, and what they are very good at is, for instance, walking on the street and then someone stopping you, oh, you want to work for me? And so on. And definitely the key to happiness, joy, and financial abundance is the relationship. So if your relationship is going extremely well, most probably you are able to attract money as well. And it doesn't mean that your partner is going to be bringing plenty of money home. Most probably you want to put some money onto the table as well. And also, your partner needs to motivate you. And once the motivation is there, you want to get, you even want to get better than your partner. So 7th house is all about consultancy for me when it comes to job. So being a therapist, being a financial consultant, let's say if it's on a Scorpio house cusp, for instance, or even Taurus. Anything to do with people, because it's the other side of the chart. So remember, I showed you the angle like that. So if the planets are all on top of the chart on the right hand side, that means that you can be extremely people orientated, and the focus always needs to be on other people. Somehow giving back is something very important here. So you want to give something back to the society, and it might be because just because you want to help somehow spiritually. You can believe in fairness and equality. This is a very public house, so you can be quite good at publicity. This could actually indicate that you can get famous in a way, especially if you have got a very strong 11th house going on as well, or the ruler of the midheaven is somehow involved, either being in the 10th house or in the 7th or in the 11th house. That could really indicate publicity. In a way, film industry, radio channels belong here as well. Diplomacy, so you can be a diplomat. Again, as I said, it's more like a people-related house, and the reason is because this is an air sign house, right? And air signs are all about communication. So, the blockage can be coming from the first house. So it can be something to do with self-destroying moments, okay, or the impersonal approach you take. I've seen plenty of self-destroying moments going on, and that's what blocking people to get what they want. 8th house. 8th house is a very sexual house. Sex is quite important, I believe, in life, because that gives you a sense of happiness no matter what. You've got all those hormones getting out of your body, so therefore you having part of fortune here indicates that you need that. Okay. By the way, I'm doing a webinar about sex on the 13th of July. It's gonna be a good 5-hour lecture. I'm gonna talk about blockages, how to overcome those, what's the difference between the 5th and the 8th house, because there is a different sex life indicated by those houses. But I'm gonna be talking about all the houses related to sex life. I'm gonna be talking about weirdos a little bit, or who is good, what type of sexual partner you need, and so forth. So if you want to sign up for that, I'm going to put the link below. Going back to part of fortune, you can have occult abilities. The wealth can come through your partners or other people's assets. It can indicate that you might be lucky because death of other people. This house rules inheritance. Also, you can be quite good at finances. You can get lucky with bank loans, funds by organizations. 8th house rules power, so powerful connections, and that's how you're gonna get into limelight, for instance, or to get ease of wealth. And also, 8th house rules magic as well, and that could bring you inheritance. So if you've got it here and then you believe in magic, you can do some rituals actually. I think, wealth is ruled by the color green, so you just need a green candle and so on, and then just do the magic. I'm not really familiar how it goes, but you need certain oils and herbs and the green candle and so forth. And the blockages can be coming from self-worth and being able to ask for enough for your services. So from now on, I'm just gonna quickly cover the blockages because we went through that part of the chart already. So if you want to know where the blockage is coming from, you just need to listen to the main interpretation of that house. Having part of fortune in the ninth house, well, ninth house is quite a spiritual house too. It's more to do with your faith. So you need to have faith in whatever you do. If no faith, there is no point in doing that because you're not going to attract money. Definitely it's talking about of expanding your mental abilities. I usually recommend that fortune is going to come from foreign countries. Even if you don't wish to relocate, somehow have that sense of ability to be able to connect to foreign countries. So if you are running a US based business, try to expand it to on an international level because most probably the money is going to come from there. You can be quite lucky in your studies. You can be great as a teacher, holistic coach, or any type of coach, doing presentations. It can even tell you that you travel to exotic places and then you can transform yourself into a higher self. Maybe you would be great as a lawyer, or it just can make you quite lucky in legal incidents or cases. You can even work in publishing, or you can also work as a PR manager. Writing abilities of yours can be quite good. Yeah, this is the ninth house. The blockages definitely can be coming from personal communication, not being understood, and that's one of the biggest one here. Okay, because third house, let's make it a little bit more understandable. Third house is more to do with simple communication. Um, don't get the don't hang up on the word simple, okay? And the ninth house is more to do with the higher self communication, and that's one of the reasons you might not be understood. And the other reason is because you might have multiple voices in your head, and you don't know which one to listen to. So a great thing to do here is to clear your head and then listening to your gut feelings, which idea came first. And that's going to help you to determine. 10th house, well, I've got my part of fortune in the 10th house, so I like talking about it. But it definitely indicates that you need to have your own business. Your social status is extremely important for you, and therefore you might want to be famous, and you might want to be appreciated by the public. If it's a little bit closer to the 11th house cusp, that's why I've recognized, and it can actually show a very good progression of your career. So at the beginning it might give you a little bit of hardship, but then usually after the first Saturn return, actually it can really start kicking off. You can have fortunate parents here, and therefore they give you, something to start with. You can actually get accepted by elderly people, and therefore they listen to your advice. They like your young vibes, and definitely it means that you are a great leader. Whatever I worked in my life, I've always been a leader. I've always worked as a manager on a top level. I would not be able to imagine myself as a employee for sure. And it's not because of the dirty tasks, believe me. It's more to do with, I know I'm a great leader. That's all. Maybe I sound a little bit big-headed, but I believe I am. Because I've got great people skills, and I have always said that people are the key to any type of business. And by the way, my part of fortune is in conjunction with Neptune, and Neptune is a very spiritual planet. I also have got Moon and Jupiter and Uranus there. So after a while, I managed to figure out that astrology is going to give me that sense of appreciation, what I'm looking for by other people. So you would need to have a look if there is any conjunction going on with any of the planets, because that can really give you a sense of what type of job you should be doing. The blockages can be coming from roots and family. 11th house, well, it's great placement for being active in the society. Actually, you can even depend on your friends, or through friendships you can actually get wealth. Maybe it doesn't mean that they're going to give you money, but actually it can mean that they are going to be supportive, and then they might find you opportunities which they haven't managed to cope with, but you can, and so forth. But it can also mean that you can have influential friends. And the freedom can be really important here. So part of fortune in the 11th, especially in an air sign, them working in a big organization might be a little bit tricky. But if it's on an earth sign, most probably it's good for you. And as I said, there's a second from the 10th, so probably salary-wise you can do extremely well as well. Blockage can be coming from creativity. Is blocked somehow, so you definitely need to learn how to express your creativity and finding what you are good at. And last but not least, 12th house. 12th house has always been a big topic in astrology because it's quite hard to understand, even for plenty of astrologers. And I'm not going to say that 12th house is something I'm extremely good at, but I do believe that 12th house is all about the higher knowledge. And I'm talking about the high ones, right? So connecting to the spiritual realm. So you can be quite good at serving other people because you can be extremely empathetic. Anything to do with spiritual work, anything to do with forgiveness, using your higher level of consciousness, definitely a spiritual path you need to be taking. But anything to do with prison work, asylum, hospitals, paranormal activities you can be quite good at. But this is quite a hard placement because benefits of life can be sometimes not visible for the native. And therefore anything to do with yoga, meditation, massage, something like that can really help you make those things visible. And the blockages are coming from not being able to see the past, where you're coming from. So disregarding where you're coming from is something you might want to consider there. Guys, part of fortune is a very small piece of vocational astrology, but I do believe one of the biggest one as well. So I've mentioned at the beginning of the video what else to take into account. To be frank, those are only 30%. Yes, I might do a video for you on zodiacal releasing, just an introduction. And then if you guys want to learn about that, which as I said, I believe the biggest timing techniques of all time, and not many astrologers using it because actually it was translated about 20 years ago. They found some scripts and books and so forth of ancient astrologers. They have been using it for a while now, and then I've realized myself how accurate it is. So most of my predictive work is done in regards to career and relationship and health matters by zodiacal releasing. Okay, so if you want to have a reading with me, the link is below, so just go on it. You can choose whichever you wish. And then if you want to sign up for my upcoming webinar, which is going to be sex, and I'm going to do an astrocartography, where to move webinar, then feel free to go on the website and then check them out. Thank you very much, guys, and have a lovely day. I think I need to go back and enjoy sunshine a little bit. You can see I'm not shaving, and I'm quite tanned as well now. But well, the weather is beautiful. Thank you. Bye bye.